Hello, my name is Resch and I'm the author of the crime novel, The Legend of the Zodiac Killer. This will not be a music video. In this video I will discuss why the sharp turn is a fake, what black holes really are, and we're going to discuss Einstein's theory of relativity, but let's discuss the real purpose of this tape. The real purpose of this tape will be to explain to any individual that wants to read my book or has read my book or condemned my book already, really what the facts of the case really are and why I wrote it up the way I did. I simply wish to explain that. So, where do we start? Of course, it's elementary. Let's talk for a moment about the zodiac itself. The word zodiac comes from the Greek, meaning circle of animals. The belief that the stars have influence over our lives goes back to pre-recorded history. Do the stars actually have influence over our lives? Well, I don't think so. But that's not really on debate here. To better understand the theology of the zodiac followers, you will better understand the mind of the zodiac killer. What do they really believe? Let's start. Let me see if I can put in words kind of the way I'm seeing what they believe. Okay, from what I've gathered from this. Okay, now, what they believe is these constellations are putting out some sort of vibes or something. Some sort of thing that comes down to us. Each one has a certain character, a certain charisma type thing. And it sends these things on us. This is why we act the way we do. This is their belief. This is the way we act the way we do, because this sort of vibes that they put out. I was born in Cancer. What they believe is, what that means is that on the day that I was born, the Earth and the Sun and the constellation of Cancer is aligned. What does that mean? Well, it means that like the Sun is pulling out more of these vibes than the rest of the constellation. It's pulling them out, whatever it is, and that's going into me and making me the way I am. It's making me act the way I am. I'm not responsible for anything I do. It's making me the way I am, okay? And it kind of also works with the planets too, you know? It's like they kind of draw on these vibes too, and it kind of magnifies it. And the moon, yeah, don't leave out the moon. When the zodiac always attacked when there was a new moon or a full moon. When we have a full moon, we do not see the shadow. That is because the moon and the earth and the sun is aligned. Now when we have a new moon, that means we're only seeing the shadow because the sun is shining here. And the earth and the moon and the sun is aligned. See, it's kind of pulling in these, and pulling right through the earth, see? So, and when the moon is in front of us, it's also pulling in. And then you see, when you have a new moon or a full moon, then you have the moon, the earth, the sun aligned with some constellation up there, and they're pulling in these vibes, you know what I mean? And that's pretty much what they believe. Every murder that he did that I believe he was responsible for, every situation, always had a certain star configuration except for the July 4th, 1969 attack up in Blue Rock Springs. The stars were all out of place on that. They were just helter-skelter all over. And of course I really meant the planets were out of whack on that. That particular attack was a little different, and we're going to talk about that later. You'll understand why there was always certain configurations on each one of the dates that he did. He would only attack people on certain dates because of the star configurations. They would give him great power. At least that's what he believed. Now remember, if anybody questions all this, then why did the Zodiac Killer do all this on certain star configurations? Obviously it had a meaning to him. I believe that's what the meaning was. They were important dates. They were very powerful dates in his theology, as far as like powerful stars configurations. I wanted to talk for a minute on why I even started writing this book to begin with. One day I'm watching this crime show about the Zodiac Killer, and they said they couldn't understand his obsession with water because some of the murder sites had water in the title. Blue Rock Springs, Lake Venecio, Lake Herman. So right away I'm sitting there saying, Zodiac Killer, water sign. From a couple particulars that I knew about the case, I knew that he had said something about Mount Diablo. And I tried to picture like a clock, with the hub being on Mount Diablo. So the way we went up through Napa Valley would be, say, like 11 o'clock. And I'm thinking, okay, now he murdered a cab driver down in San Francisco. That would be like around 9 o'clock. I tried to start searching for a place name connection like we had up through the Napa Valley, and it didn't come to me right away. And then suddenly I realized that it may be Virgo the Virgin, because he killed a guy on Cherry Street. Cherry, Virgin, Cherry, Virgin. So then I thought, well, okay, now if I'm right with what I'm saying, then 9 o'clock would be Virgo the Virgin. 11 o'clock would be Scorpio, which was a water sign. And then he abducted a woman down in, at least they thought he abducted a woman down in Modesto. Modesto would have been an Aries. And I searched and searched and searched, and I'm trying to make it come true. And then I go back and look, and I realized that Aries was a fire sign. And then the hair is standing up on my arms, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I've got this, because he had went back and burned a car for no reason at all. That's why he did this. After that, it was just kind of like everything just started falling in place. He had killed a woman down in Riverside, which was down in Southern California, and he killed a woman on a street called Terracina. Terra is the same word that is Latin for like dirt and earth. It's the same word that terracotta comes from. And that is in Taurus. Taurus is an earth sign. I also believe he killed a couple of people down in a place just west of Riverside, and I can't pronounce the name of it, but it's Spanish for seagull. That would be in Gemini. Gemini was an air sign. It was very similar to the murders up in Lake Vanessa. This is a soon-to-be famous picture painted by yours truly. If you can look right here, you can see that some of the signs are singular and some of them are plural. He would always attack 2 in certain signs and always attack 1 in other signs. I believe that's why he did not kill the Johns woman, because she had her baby with her, and that Aries was a singular sign. Okay, now I said I was going to add a couple of other subjects to this video to create a little controversy. And this is one of them right here. This is the Shroud of Turin. There are people that believe that this is the burial shroud of Jesus Christ. This has been going on for hundreds of years. People trying to prove it, disprove it, and I'm going to show you some little thing right now that once you see it, you will not be able to understand why all these years no one has seen it. I do believe in God. I'm a very religious person, but this is a fake. Watch what I'm about to do. Here, this is the nose, this is the cheeks. I didn't have time to put the eyebrows in, but as if the shroud were real, you would have the top of the head, and the head would go right back to the back of the head. So if you look very closely at the shroud, you can see it doesn't have that continuation on the back for the top of the head. The shroud is actually more like this, put together. 2 different bodies. It could be impossible that it could be one. Okay, now here's the real thing. For hundreds of years, nobody has seen this? Okay, I would like to begin talking about something else that may be a little controversial in my book. There were 7 people that claimed to have seen the Zodiac Killer and survived. Probably the most important description ever given to the police was from the 3 youths that witnessed the Paul Stein murder. They went to the police cartoonist and gave a description, and that resulted in the picture on my right. A few days later, a policeman that had been on the scene had seen the picture and said to himself, well, I seen that guy. So he went and made little changes, and that resulted at the picture on my left. Okay, that's 4 individuals that had seen him. Okay, the 5th person on our list that we're going to talk about that had seen the Zodiac Killer and gave a description was the Johns woman. She spent hours riding around with him and looked at the poster and said, this is the man that abducted me. Okay, the 6th person on our list would be the gentleman that survived the attack at Lake Vanessa. He really didn't get a good look at the Zodiac Killer because the Zodiac Killer was wearing a disguise. So, but we'll count him too. Now, the 7th person on this list would be the survivor from the Blue Rock Spring shooting. From everything I've read, he said that this is the man that shot him. In my book, I called this guy Bob. For those of you that are not familiar with the case, this is Arthur Lee Allen. There is no show, no tales, no anything about the Zodiac Killer that does not mention his name. He is probably the leading suspect in the case, and he's been proven time and time again that he was not the Zodiac Killer. I may not be a very smart man, but I think that's 2 different people. He was the head suspect, mainly because there were a few unrelated witnesses that said he knew things about the case that nobody should have known. He knew the guy was going to call himself the Zodiac Killer. He knew they were going to come up behind women and flash his headlights to try to abduct women. He knew things like this. Now, there's only a couple possibilities why you could really say a person like this would know these things. And let's examine them one by one. Okay, let's go to, it could be a big coincidence. Yeah, right. He could have been psychic. He doesn't look psychic to me. It could be the witnesses are lying. But then that would mean it was a couple unrelated witnesses lying about the same thing. That's kind of improbable. Well, there's only one other theory that I can possibly think of that would make sense, and that would be this. Maybe he knew the guy! You get it? That was my theory, and that's the way I wrote it up in the book. The first 2 chapters of my book are the Zodiac Killer putting him up, this man up, to the murder in Blue Rock Springs. Because the stars were all out of whack. At least that's the way I saw it. This may not fit with a lot of people's theories, but if you think about what I'm saying, it clears up a lot of mystery in this case.